The ceiling fan in my hospital room spun lazily above me, creating shadows that danced across the sterile white walls. My right side felt heavy, like it was encased in concrete, and my mouth drooped at the corner as if someone had tugged it downward with an invisible string. The stroke had come without warning 3 days ago. One moment I was trimming the hedge in my front yard in Brookfield, Connecticut. The next I was on the ground, the world tilting sideways as my neighbor Mrs. Peterson screamed for someone to call 911. "Dad, we need to talk about what happens next." My daughter Jennifer's voice pulled me from my thoughts. At 52, she looked more like her mother every day, the same sharp green eyes, the same way of pursing her lips when she was about to say something unpleasant. She stood at the foot of my hospital bed, her husband Robert beside her, his face a mask of practiced concern. "I can go home," I said, the words slurring slightly. "Doctor said mild stroke, recovery, good prospects." Even forming those simple sentences exhausted me, but I needed her to understand. I was going home, to the house I'd built with my own 2 hands 43 years ago, where I'd raised her, where I'd nursed her mother through cancer until the very end. Jennifer exchanged a look with Robert. He cleared his throat, straightening the cuffs of his tailored suit, the kind you don't buy on a high school principal's salary like mine, but on an investment banker's income like his. "Dad, be realistic," Jennifer said. "You're 68 years old. You live alone. You've had a stroke. The recovery process is going to be long, and you'll need constant care." "I'll hire help," I countered, my good hand gripping the bedsheet. "Got savings?" Robert stepped forward then. "Howard, we've looked into it. Home health aides are expensive, upwards of $25 an hour. That's almost $4,500 a month for just 8 hours of daily care." I felt my heart rate increase. Got Medicare and savings, almost $380,000. House paid off. Jennifer's face softened in that patronizing way adults use with children. "Dad, that money needs to last you potentially another 20 years. And what if you need more than 8 hours of care? What if you fall again when no one's there?" "The Brookfield Pines Assisted Living Community has an excellent rehabilitation wing," Robert added. "We've already spoken to them. They have an opening next week." The room seemed to shrink around me. "No," I managed to say more forcefully. "My house. Worked for it. 43 years in that house." Jennifer sighed, her patience visibly wearing thin. "Dad, take care of yourself or go to the nursing home. Those are your options right now. We can't have you putting yourself at risk. And frankly, we can't rearrange our lives either. Maddie has college visits this month and Tyler's baseball tournament is next weekend." My grandchildren. She was using my grandchildren as an excuse. The same grandchildren I'd picked up from school every day, while Jennifer and Robert built their careers. The same grandchildren whose college funds I'd started the day they were born. "I'll think about it," I said finally, turning my face toward the window. Outside, an old oak tree swayed in the breeze, its leaves just beginning to turn golden with the approach of fall. I'd planted a similar tree in my backyard when Jennifer was born. "Don't think too long," Robert said, checking his watch. "These places fill up quickly." After they left, I closed my eyes, exhaustion washing over me. The conversation replayed in my mind as I drifted off to sleep. When I woke hours later, darkness had fallen, and my room was quiet except for the soft beeping of monitors. My cell phone glowed on the bedside table. With effort, I reached for it, nearly knocking over a cup of water. 3 missed calls from Jennifer, a text message. "Dad, we've put down a deposit at Brookfield Pines. It's refundable for 72 hours. Please be reasonable." The anger that surged through me felt clarifying, like a bolt of lightning cutting through fog. I opened my banking app, something my grandson Tyler had set up for me last Christmas, patiently showing me how to check my balances and transfer money. "It's so easy, Grandpa," he'd said. "Even Mom doesn't know how to do this stuff." My savings account showed a balance of $378,452.16. My checking account held another 12,347.89. The house was worth at least $650,000 in today's market, almost $1 million in assets, and my daughter thought I couldn't take care of myself. I switched to my email, finding the contact information for my attorney, Michael Greenbaum. We'd played poker together for 30 years, and he'd handled the estate when my wife Sarah passed 5 years ago. Need to speak urgently, I typed with my good hand. Hospital St. Vincent's, room 4I12. The next morning, a nurse was helping me with breakfast when Michael walked in, his weathered face creasing with concern. At 72, he still worked part-time at his firm, mostly handling long-time clients like me. "Jesus, Howard, you look like hell," he said, setting his briefcase on the visitor's chair. "Feel like it too," I replied, my speech slightly clearer after a night's rest. "Need your help, Mike." The nurse finished adjusting my bed and left us alone. I told Michael about Jennifer and Robert's plans, watching his bushy eyebrows draw together as I spoke. "So they want to ship you off to some facility and, what, take over your house?" he asked. Not said outright, but heading that way. Jennifer's been hinting for years that Maddie could use my house when she starts at Fairfield University. Michael pulled out a legal pad. "What do you want to do?" "Protect myself," I said, the words coming easier now. "My assets. They think I'm incapacitated. Want to decide for me. Need to show them I'm not." For the next hour, Michael and I talked strategy. By the time he left, my path forward was clear. I'd spent my entire life building security for my family. Now I needed to protect it from them. That afternoon, Dr. Patel came by on his rounds. A young man with kind eyes and a careful manner, he seemed pleased with my progress. "The MRI shows the damage was minimal, Mr. Wilson," he said, showing me images on his tablet. "With proper rehabilitation, I expect you to regain most, if not all, function on your right side. Your speech should continue to improve as well." "How long?" I asked. "Everyone's different, but for a mild stroke like yours, significant improvement within 3 to 6 months is common. Complete recovery might take longer." "Can I live alone?" Dr. Patel considered this. "With some modifications to your home and regular physical therapy, yes, I believe you could manage safely. We'll need to address fall prevention, and you'll likely need some assistance initially, but independence is a reasonable goal." I asked him to document his assessment and recommendations in detail. When Jennifer and Robert returned that evening, I was ready for them. "Spoke to the doctor," I said as they settled into the visitor chairs. "He says I can go home with modifications and part-time help." Jennifer frowned. "Dad, we've already discussed this. The deposit at Brookfield Pines, get it refunded," I interrupted. "Not going." Robert leaned forward. "Howard, be reasonable. Your house has stairs, narrow doorways. It's not set up for someone in your condition." "Can be modified," I countered. "Got money for that." "And who's going to coordinate all these modifications?" Jennifer asked, exasperation coloring her voice. "Who's going to hire contractors, oversee the work? Robert and I both work full-time, and we have the kids' schedules to manage." "I will," I said. "Called some people already." It was a lie, but a necessary one. "You can barely hold your phone," Jennifer snapped. "This is exactly what we're talking about." "Dad, you're not thinking clearly." I took a deep breath, steadying myself. "Jennifer, I raised you in that house after your mother died. Worked 2 jobs to put you through NYU. Never asked for anything in return. Now I'm asking, respect my decision." Something shifted in her expression, a flicker of shame, quickly replaced by determination. "This isn't about respect, Dad. It's about what's best for you." "Best for me is my home," I insisted. "Doctor agrees." Robert stood abruptly. "We're going around in circles here. Jennifer, we should go. Howard, think about this overnight. We'll talk tomorrow." After they left, I texted Michael, "It's time, come tomorrow morning." The next day dawned clear and cool. I'd slept better than expected, and a morning session with the hospital's physical therapist had left me feeling stronger. When Jennifer and Robert arrived around noon, Michael was already there helping me review documents spread across the rolling tray table. "What's going on?" Jennifer asked, looking between us. "Michael, I didn't expect to see you here." Michael stood, extending his hand. "Jennifer, Robert, good to see you both, though I wish under better circumstances. Why do you need a lawyer, Dad?" Jennifer's voice had taken on an edge. "Updating some paperwork," I said simply. "In light of recent events." Robert stepped forward. "What kind of paperwork?" Michael gestured to the chairs. "Why don't you both have a seat? Howard has asked me to explain some decisions he's made regarding his care and estate." They sat, reluctantly, Jennifer's purse clutched tightly in her lap. "First," Michael began, "Howard has executed a new advance healthcare directive, naming me as his healthcare proxy instead of Jennifer. He's also created a springing, durable power of attorney for financial matters, again naming me rather than either of you." "What?" Jennifer's voice rose. "Dad, why would you do that?" I met her gaze steadily. "Because you're not listening to what I want." "Second," Michael continued, "Howard has established a revocable living trust with himself as the beneficiary during his lifetime. The trust owns his house and the majority of his financial assets. I've been named successor trustee." Robert's face had darkened. "This seems very sudden and frankly unnecessary." "Third," Michael said, ignoring the interruption, "Howard has arranged for a licensed home health care service to provide assistance upon his discharge. The trust will pay for these services directly. He's also contracted with a construction company specializing in home modifications for individuals with mobility issues. All of this would have been discussed with you," I added. "My speech noticeably clearer today if you'd respected my wishes." Jennifer stood suddenly. "This is ridiculous. You've had a stroke, Dad. You're not thinking clearly, and Michael is taking advantage of that fact." Michael remained calm. "Dr. Patel has provided a written statement confirming Howard's cognitive function is unimpaired. We have his assessment here if you'd like to review it." "I don't understand," Jennifer said, her voice breaking slightly. "We're just trying to make sure you're safe." "By putting me in a home against my wishes," I countered. "By making decisions about my money, my house, without consulting me." "That's not fair," Robert interjected. "Brookfield Pines is a quality facility with excellent rehabilitation services. We've only put down a refundable deposit." "And what about after rehabilitation?" I asked. "Would I come home then?" The silence that followed was answer enough. "Jennifer," I said, softer now, "I'm still your father, still capable of deciding my own future." Tears welled in her eyes. "You could have another stroke, you could fall, you could—" "Die?" I finished for her. "Yes, eventually, but I'll do it in my own home, on my own terms." She grabbed her purse and fled the room. Robert lingered, his expression calculating. "You know she's only trying to help," he said. "Is she? Or are you both trying to help yourselves to my assets?" His face flushed. "That's an outrageous accusation." "Is it? 3 months ago, you asked me to invest $50,000 in some venture fund. When I declined, you suggested I wasn't supporting family. That was a legitimate investment opportunity. That somehow needed my money, despite your 7-figure income?" I shook my head. "Go comfort your wife, Robert. We're done here." After he left, Michael gathered the signed documents. "That went about as expected," he remarked. "Yes," I agreed, "but this is just the beginning." 2 days later, I was discharged from the hospital. Michael drove me home in his sensible Volvo, a hospital wheelchair folded in the trunk for temporary use. My street looked exactly as I'd left it, neat colonial and Cape Cod houses lining both sides, American flags fluttering from several porches, Mrs. Peterson's ridiculous garden gnome collection visible from the road. My house stood solid and welcoming, white clapboard with black shutters, the maple tree in the front yard beginning to turn crimson. Michael helped me up the 3 front steps, a challenge with my still weak right side, but manageable with a cane. Inside, everything was exactly as I'd left it. Family photos lined the hallway, Sarah in her wedding dress. Jennifer's school pictures through the years, Maddie and Tyler as babies, toddlers, teenagers. The familiar scent of lemon furniture polish and old books welcomed me home. A young woman was waiting in the living room, rising as we entered. "Mr. Wilson, I'm Caitlin from Home Care Solutions. I'll be your primary care assistant." Michael had arranged everything. Caitlin would be there 8 hours daily, helping with physical therapy exercises, meal preparation, and household tasks. A construction crew would arrive next week to install grab bars in the bathroom, a stair lift, and ramps at the entrances. My bedroom would temporarily move to the first-floor study until I could manage stairs safely again. After Michael left, Caitlin helped me settle in, efficiently unpacking my hospital bag and preparing a light lunch. She was pleasant and professional, leaving me with the emergency call button when she went to get groceries. Alone in my house for the first time since the stroke, I felt a profound sense of rightness. This was where I belonged. This was worth fighting for. My phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer. "I hope you're satisfied with your arrangements. We were only trying to help." I didn't respond. Actions would speak louder than words in the days to come. The next morning, as Caitlin helped me with breakfast, the doorbell rang. She answered it, returning with a concerned expression. "Your daughter and son-in-law are here. Should I let them in?" I nodded, straightening in my chair. Jennifer entered the kitchen first, her expression a mixture of defiance and uncertainty. Robert followed, his gaze sweeping the room. Assessing. "Dad," Jennifer began without preamble, "we need to talk about what happened at the hospital." "Sit down," I said, gesturing to the empty chairs. Caitlin discreetly withdrew to the living room. "Who's that?" Robert asked. "Caitlin, my caregiver," I explained. "Very competent." Jennifer ignored this. "Dad, I don't understand why you've shut us out like this. Creating a trust, replacing me as your healthcare proxy, it feels like you don't trust us." I took a sip of coffee before answering. "Trust is earned, Jennifer, and recently you haven't shown much respect for my wishes." "We were concerned about your welfare," Robert insisted. "That's not disrespectful." "Making decisions about my life without consulting me is disrespectful," I countered. "Deciding I should sell my home is disrespectful." Jennifer looked startled. "We never said you should sell your home." "No." "Then why did Robert call my neighbor Ted Johnson last month, asking if he knew any good real estate agents in the area?" The color drained from Robert's face. "That was just preliminary research," I finished for him. "Planning ahead. Funny how you were planning for the sale of my house before I'd even had a stroke." Jennifer turned to her husband. "You did what?" Robert shifted uncomfortably. "I was just exploring options in case your father ever decided to downsize. Ted's wife Elaine plays bridge with Mrs. Peterson," I explained. "Word gets around in this neighborhood, has for 43 years. A heavy silence fell over the kitchen. The refrigerator hummed softly in the background, and outside, a lawnmower started up somewhere down the street. "What do you want from us, Dad?" Jennifer finally asked, kindly. Her voice small. "Honesty would be a start," I replied. "Why are you really so eager to get me out of this house?" Jennifer and Robert exchanged glances. She nodded slightly and he cleared his throat. "We've had some financial setbacks," Robert admitted. "The market correction last year hit my portfolio hard. We've had to tap into our home equity line of credit to cover some expenses." "Robert's bonus was less than expected," Jennifer added. "And with Maddie starting college next fall and Tyler the year after, we're feeling the pressure." "So you thought my house and savings could solve your problems?" I asked quietly. "Not like that," Jennifer protested. "We thought it made sense for everyone. You'd have professional care, and we could help Maddie with college expenses using some of the proceeds from eventually selling this house." "Eventually," I repeated. "And who would decide when eventually arrived?" Neither answered. "Let me be clear," I said, leaning forward. "This house and my savings represent 45 years of hard work. I lived within my means. I saved diligently. I made sacrifices. That doesn't make these assets a family emergency fund." "Dad, that's not fair," Jennifer began. What's not fair is expecting me to bail you out of financial decisions I had no part in making, I interrupted. What's not fair is treating me like I'm already incompetent because I had a mild stroke. Robert stood abruptly. This isn't productive. Jennifer, we should go. Jennifer remained seated, tears forming in her eyes. Dad, please, we're still family. Don't shut us out. Something in her plea reached through my anger. This was my daughter, the little girl I'd taught to ride a bike, the teenager I'd waited up for on prom night, the young woman I'd walked down the aisle. Somewhere along the way, something had gone wrong between us, but she was still my child. I'm not shutting you out, I said, softening my tone. I'm establishing boundaries. There's a difference. Can we start over? She asked. Please. I considered this. We can try, but things will be different now. I make my own decisions about my care, my home, and my money. If you can respect that, we can move forward. Jennifer nodded, wiping away a tear. Ping. Robert remained standing, his expression unreadable. For what it's worth, I added, I'm sorry about your financial troubles, but you need to find solutions that don't involve appropriating my life's work. After they left, Caitlin returned to the kitchen. Are you all right, Mr. Wilson? That seemed intense. I'm fine, I assured her. Family is complicated. Isn't that the truth? She agreed, beginning to clear the breakfast dishes. As the days passed, I settled into a new routine. Mornings with Caitlin involved physical therapy exercises that left me exhausted but gradually stronger. Afternoons were for rest, reading, and occasional visitors, neighbors stopping by with casseroles and concern. My poker buddies bringing cigars. I couldn't smoke yet but appreciated all the same. Jennifer called daily but didn't visit again that week. Our conversations were strained but civil. I asked about Maddie and Tyler. She inquired about my therapy progress. We carefully avoided any mention of finances or living arrangements. The construction crew arrived as scheduled, transforming my house with efficiency and minimal disruption. Grab bars appeared in the bathroom, a stair lift was installed on the staircase, and gently sloping ramps replaced the steps at both entrances. The changes were noticeable, but not overwhelming. Adaptations rather than surrenders. On Friday, 10 days after my discharge, Michael stopped by with paperwork for me to sign. The trust documentation was complete, my assets officially protected. Jennifer called me yesterday, he mentioned as we sat in my study, now temporarily my bedroom. What did she want? To understand the terms of the trust. She seemed particularly concerned about what would happen to the house if you needed more extensive care in the future. I wasn't surprised. What did you tell her? The truth, that those decisions would be yours to make as long as you're competent, and mine as trustee if you become incapacitated. I also reminded her that the trust is revocable while you're alive and competent. Did that satisfy her? Michael gave me a knowing look. For now, but I doubt this is the end of it. He was right. The following Tuesday, Jennifer and Robert appeared at my door unannounced, along with a man I didn't recognize, middle-aged, with a receding hairline and an expensive suit. Dad, this is Calvin Mercer, Jennifer said as they entered the living room where I was reading. He's a geriatric care specialist. I set down my book. Is he now, and why is he in my home? Robert stepped forward. Howard, we're still concerned about your long-term care plan. Mr. Mercer specializes in assessing home environments for safety and suitability. Anger flared inside me, but I kept my voice level. Did I ask for this assessment? Dad, please, Jennifer pleaded. Just let him look around and give his professional opinion. I reached for my phone. Caitlin, I called to my caregiver, who was in the kitchen. Could you please come in here? She appeared in the doorway. Yes, Mr. Wilson. Please call Michael Greenbaum and inform him that my daughter has brought a stranger into my home to conduct an unauthorized assessment. Ask if he recommends I call the police for trespassing. Dad, Jennifer exclaimed, that's completely unnecessary. The care specialist looked uncomfortable. Perhaps I should come back another time when... You shouldn't come back at all, I interrupted. Not unless I invite you, which I won't. Robert's face had turned an alarming shade of red. "This is ridiculous, Howard. We're trying to help." "No," I said firmly. "You're trying to build a case that I can't live independently. You're trying to circumvent the legal protections I've put in place." Jennifer sank onto the couch, her face in her hands. "Why are you being so difficult? Why can't you see that we just want what's best for you?" "What's best for me," I said slowly, emphasizing each word, "is to live in my own home, with the assistance I've arranged, making my own decisions. What's best for me is not what's most convenient or financially advantageous for you." The specialist cleared his throat. "I think I should leave. This is clearly not a good time." After he departed, an uncomfortable silence filled the living room. Caitlin hovered uncertainly in the doorway. "It's okay, Caitlin," I told her. "You don't need to call Michael." She nodded and retreated to the kitchen. "Dad," Jennifer began, her voice trembling slightly, "I don't understand why you're being like this. We've always been close." "Have we?" I asked quietly. "When was the last time you visited me just to visit, not to discuss what should happen to my house or my money?" She looked stricken. "That's not fair. When was the last time you brought Maddie and Tyler over, not because you needed me to watch them, but because they should know their grandfather?" Robert stood behind Jennifer, his hand on her shoulder. For once he remained silent. "I had a lot of time to think in the hospital," I continued, "about our relationship, about the direction it's taken over the years. I realized something disturbing. You've come to see me primarily as a resource, not as a person." "That's not true," Jennifer protested. "Isn't it? After your mother died, how often did you check on me just to see how I was doing? How many times did you invite me to dinner when you didn't need something? Money for Maddie's dance lessons, or Tyler's hockey equipment, or a loan for that kitchen renovation?" Tears streamed down Jennifer's face now. "I've been busy, work, the kids. We're all busy," I said, "but we make time for what we value." Robert finally spoke. "This isn't productive. Jennifer, we should go." She stood reluctantly. "Dad, please, can't we find some middle ground here?" I sighed, suddenly feeling very tired. The middle ground was me staying in my home with appropriate assistance. "I've found that middle ground. You're the ones who keep trying to move the goalposts." After they left, I sat quietly, the weight of the confrontation heavy on my shoulders. Caitlin brought me a cup of tea, setting it on the side table without comment. "Thank you," I said. "And I'm sorry about that scene." She smiled gently. "No need to apologize, Mr. Wilson. Family dynamics can be challenging." "Call me Howard," I said. "And yes, they certainly can be." That evening I called my grandson, Tyler. At 16, he was already taller than me. A star baseball player with his father's confidence, but thankfully more of his mother's empathy. "Grandpa," he answered, genuine pleasure in his voice. "Mom said you were home from the hospital. How are you feeling?" We talked for 20 minutes about my recovery, his upcoming baseball tournament, his sister Maddie's college applications. Not once did he mention my house or my money. The contrast with his parents wasn't lost on me. "Tyler," I said before we hung up, "I'd like to see you and Maddie soon. Could you two come visit this weekend?" "I'll ask Mom," he promised. "But yeah, I'd like that. I miss your stories." The call left me feeling both hopeful and melancholy. My grandchildren, at least, seemed to value me for more than my assets. The next morning, I received an unexpected visitor. Robert arrived alone, looking uncharacteristically rumpled in jeans and a polo shirt rather than his usual suit. "Howard," he greeted me, standing awkwardly in the entryway. "Do you have a minute to talk?" I led him to the living room, moving more steadily with my cane than I had even a few days ago. "What can I do for you, Robert?" He sat on the edge of the sofa, hands clasped between his knees. "I came to apologize. Yesterday was inappropriate. Bringing that specialist to your home without your consent was crossing a line." I studied him, trying to discern his sincerity. Yes, it was. What prompted this realization? He sighed heavily. "Jennifer and I had a long talk last night about you, about our approach to this situation. She's devastated by the things you said." "Truth can be painful," I observed. The thing is, Robert continued, some of what you said hit home. For me, especially, I have been focused on the financial aspects. Too focused, probably. Why is that, Robert? I asked. You make good money. Jennifer has her teaching position. What's really going on? He looked down at his hands. I made some bad investments. Worse than I've admitted to Jennifer. We're not just tight. We're in serious trouble. How serious? Remortgaged the house at a variable rate that's now adjusting upward. Credit card debt, a margin loan that's underwater. I could lose my job if certain investments don't turn around. I leaned back in my chair, processing this. And you saw my assets as a solution. He nodded miserably. Not initially, but when you had the stroke, it seemed like an opportunity to solve multiple problems at once. Get you proper care and, yes, eventually access some of your equity. The honesty was refreshing, even if the content was troubling. Do you know what I did for a living, Robert? He looked confused by the change in topic. You were a high school principal. Before that, my first career. Something in finance. I think Jennifer mentioned it once. I smiled slightly. I was a financial advisor for 15 years before I went into education. I managed other people's money, helped them plan for retirement, for college expenses, for unexpected emergencies. I didn't know that, Robert admitted. There's a lot you don't know about me, I said. Because you've never bothered to ask. I'm not just Jennifer's aging father or Maddie and Tyler's grandfather. I'm not just a house and a bank account. I'm a person with experience, knowledge, and yes, wisdom to offer. Robert had the grace to look ashamed. You're right, and I'm sorry. If you'd come to me openly about your financial troubles, I continued, I might have been willing to help, with advice, possibly even with a loan, but trying to manipulate me out of my home and life savings, that I can't forgive easily. I understand, he said quietly. What happens now? I considered this. That depends on you and Jennifer. If you want a relationship with me based on mutual respect, we can work toward that, but the schemes and manipulations need to stop. They will, he promised. I'll make sure of it. After Robert left, I called Michael to update him on the conversation. Do you believe him? My old friend asked. Partly, I replied. He's definitely in financial trouble. Whether he's truly sorry or just changing tactics remains to be seen. Keep your guard up, Michael advised. People in desperate financial situations often make desperate choices. The weekend arrived, bringing with it a visit from Maddie and Tyler. My granddaughter, now 17 and applying to colleges, embraced me carefully as if afraid I might break. Grandpa, you look good, she exclaimed, studying my face. Mom made it sound like you were at death's door. I chuckled. Reports of my demise have been greatly exaggerated. Tyler, less cautious than his sister, gave me a proper hug. The house looks different, he observed, noticing the ramp at the entrance and the stair lift on the staircase. Accommodations for an old man with a bum leg, I explained. Temporary, the doctor says. We spent the afternoon together, the teenagers helping me prepare a simple lunch under Caitlin's watchful eye. Maddie talked about her college applications. Fairfield University was her top choice. Close to home, but with a good program in psychology, her current interest. Mum says I could maybe live here with you while I go to college, she mentioned casually as we ate. Would that be weird? I nearly choked on my sandwich. Your mother suggested that? Maddie nodded. A few months ago, she said it would save on dorm costs. And you could use the company. I told her I'd rather have the full college experience, though. The pieces clicked into place. Jennifer and Robert's financial troubles, their eagerness to get me into assisted living, the inquiry about real estate agents. They'd been planning to move Maddie into my house while I was relegated to Brookfield Pines. That would have been complicated, I said carefully, not wanting to drag my grandchildren into the conflict with their parents. After Maddie and Tyler left, I sat in my study, staring at the family photos on my desk. Sarah smiled back at me from our anniversary cruise, 5 years before her diagnosis. Jennifer as a college graduate, proud in her cap and gown. Maddie and Tyler as toddlers, playing in the backyard sprinkler. Where had things gone so wrong? When had my daughter decided my worth was primarily financial? And more importantly, how could we find our way back to a genuine relationship? The following Tuesday, 3 weeks after my stroke, I had a follow-up appointment with Dr. Patel. Caitlin drove me to the hospital, where scans and tests confirmed what I already felt. I was recovering well, ahead of schedule in many respects. "Your determination is paying off, Mr. Wilson," Dr. Patel said, reviewing my file. "Physical therapy reports show significant improvement in right-side mobility. Speech is nearly back to normal. Cognitive function remains excellent. When can I drive again?" I asked, thinking of the freedom that would return with my car keys. "Let's reassess in another month," he suggested. "If progress continues at this rate, I don't see why not." As Caitlin and I left the neurology department, I spotted a familiar figure at the nurse's station. Jennifer, in her teaching clothes, a cardigan draped over her arm, despite the warm September day. She saw me at the same moment, surprise registering on her face before she composed herself and walked over. "Dad," she greeted me. "I didn't know you had an appointment today." "Follow up with Dr. Patel," I explained. "What brings you to the hospital?" She glanced at Caitlin, then back to me. "Can we talk privately for a moment?" Caitlin took the hint. "I'll wait by the elevators, Howard." Once she was out of earshot, Jennifer spoke in a low voice. "I came to speak with Dr. Patel about your condition." Anger flared instantly. "Without my knowledge or consent?" "Dad, please," she said quickly. "I'm trying to understand your prognosis better, that's all. Dr. Patel wouldn't speak to me anyway, patient confidentiality." "So you were trying to go behind my back, but failed," I summarized. "That's supposed to make me feel better?" She sighed, frustration evident. "I don't know how to talk to you anymore. Everything I say is wrong." "Try honesty," I suggested. "It works wonders." Jennifer looked around the busy hospital corridor, then back at me. "Fine, I'm worried about you." "Yes, but I'm also drowning, Dad. Robert's financial mistakes have put us in a terrible position. Maddie's college tuition is coming due, and we can barely make the mortgage payment. I'm scared, and yes, I looked at your resources as a potential solution." The candor was unexpected. "Thank you for being honest. But I also love you," she continued, her voice breaking slightly. "You're my father. I don't want to lose you. To another stroke, to this distance that's grown between us, to any of it." I studied my daughter's face, the worry lines around her eyes, the slight tremble in her lower lip, the same expressions her mother used to have when deeply concerned. "I believe you," I said finally, "but trust once broken takes time to rebuild." "What can I do?" she asked. "Stop trying to manage my life," I replied. "Respect my decisions, and maybe talk to me about your financial troubles openly, instead of scheming to access my assets." Jennifer nodded, wiping away a tear. "I can do that, and Dad, I'm sorry, truly." As Caitlin drove me home, I pondered the conversation. Jennifer's apology seemed sincere, but would her actions match her words? Only time would tell. That evening, as I prepared for bed in my temporary first-floor bedroom, my phone rang. It was Tyler. "Grandpa," he said without preamble, "something weird is happening. Mom and Dad are arguing about selling our house." I sat on the edge of the bed. "Why are they considering that?" "Money problems, I think. Dad was yelling about bad investments and credit card debt. Mom mentioned something about a home equity loan that's adjusting, whatever that means. It means they borrowed against the value of your house. And the interest rate is increasing," I explained. "Where are you now? Are you okay?" "I'm fine. In my room with the door closed. Maddie's spending the night at Emma's house, so she doesn't know about this yet." I thought quickly. "Tyler, I want you to do something for me. Don't mention that we talked about this." "I'll handle it, okay?" "Okay," he agreed. "But Grandpa, I don't want to move. All my friends are here and my baseball team—" "I understand," I assured him. "Try to get some sleep. Things will look better in the morning." After we hung up, I called Michael. Despite the late hour, he answered on the third ring, his voice alert. "Howard, everything all right?" I explained the situation. "I need to know exactly how bad their finances are before I decide what to do." Michael was quiet for a moment. "I know a guy, forensic accountant, specializes in high-net-worth divorces, but he could probably look into this discreetly. Do you have their social security numbers?" "Jennifer's, yes, not Robert's." "It's a start. Let me make some calls tomorrow." 3 days later, Michael and I sat in my study, reviewing the preliminary findings from his contact. The picture was worse than I'd imagined. Robert had lost substantial amounts in risky options trading, using their home equity as collateral. Credit cards were maxed out. Their mortgage was underwater after a cash-out refinance at the market peak. Tyler's college fund had been borrowed from to cover margin calls. "They're on the brink of bankruptcy," Michael concluded. "The house will probably go into foreclosure within 6 months if something doesn't change." I stared at the financial summary, a sick feeling in my stomach, not just for my daughter and her husband, but for my grandchildren, whose stability was threatened by their parents' financial mismanagement. "What are my options?" I asked. Michael leaned back in his chair. "Legally, you have no obligation here. Their financial mess is their problem. And morally," he sighed, "that's more complicated. They tried to manipulate you out of your assets, but they're still family, and your grandchildren are innocent parties in all this." I thought about Tyler's voice on the phone, worried about leaving his friends and baseball team, about Maddie's college dreams now in jeopardy. "I need to talk to Jennifer," I decided. "Alone. Can you arrange it?" The next afternoon, Jennifer arrived at my house, clearly nervous. Caitlin discreetly made herself scarce as I led my daughter to the study. "Sit down," I said, gesturing to the chair across from my desk. She complied, hands twisting in her lap. "Dad, what's this about?" Michael was very cryptic on the phone. I placed the financial summary on the desk, turning it to face her. "This is about the truth, Jennifer. The whole truth." She glanced down at the document, confusion turning to shock as she recognized the account numbers and names. "How did you get this? This is private information." "Yes, it is," I agreed, "just like my medical information was private when you tried to speak with Dr. Patel behind my back." Color drained from her face. "Dad, I can explain—" "I sincerely hope so," I interrupted, "because from where I'm sitting, it looks like your husband has squandered not only your home equity and credit, but also Tyler's college fund. It looks like you're months away from foreclosure. And it looks like your solution was to ship me off to assisted living and take over my assets." Tears welled in her eyes. "It wasn't like that." "Not entirely? Then explain it to me," I said. "Help me understand." She took a shuddering breath. "Robert started trading options during the pandemic, made some money at first. Then he started using margin, borrowing to make bigger trades. When the market turned, he got margin calls. We used the home equity line to cover them. Thinking the market would recover, it didn't. At least his positions didn't. And the credit cards? Keeping up appearances," she admitted. "Private school tuition for the kids, vacations we couldn't afford. The country club membership Robert insisted we needed for networking. And Tyler's college fund." A tear slipped down her cheek. "That was the line I told Robert not to cross. But he did it anyway without telling me. I only found out last month." I leaned forward. "Jennifer, look at me." She raised her eyes to meet mine. "I raised you better than this," I said quietly. "Your mother and I lived within our means. We saved, we sacrificed. We taught you the value of money and hard work." "I know," she whispered. "So how did you end up here? How did you become someone who would consider putting her father in a home to solve her financial problems?" She wiped away tears. "I was desperate. I'm desperate. Robert keeps saying he can turn things around with one good trade. But it just gets worse. The kids don't know how bad things are. I didn't know what else to do." I studied my daughter, seeing both the desperate woman before me and the little girl who used to climb into my lap for bedtime stories. "Here's what's going to happen," I said finally. I'll help you, but on my terms, not yours. Hope flickered across her face. What terms? First, Robert needs to stop trading immediately. All accounts closed. She nodded. I've been telling him that. Second, I want a full accounting of every debt, every asset, every liability. No more secrets. Okay. Third, you and Robert will attend financial counseling. I'll pay for it, but you'll do the work. Another nod. Fourth, you'll tell Maddie and Tyler the truth, not all the gory details, but enough that they understand the situation. They deserve honesty. She looked pained at this, but agreed. Finally, I said, you will respect my independence. No more schemes, no more end runs around my wishes. I am your father, not your financial solution. I understand, she said softly. And Dad, I am sorry. Not just because you caught us, but because I became someone you can't trust. I reached across the desk and took her hand. Trust can be rebuilt. And Jennifer, it takes time and consistent action, but it's possible. What about the house? She asked. The bank is starting foreclosure proceedings next month. I'll pay off the mortgage, I said. Not as a gift, but as a loan with proper documentation. You and Robert will make payments to my trust, not the bank. Relief washed over her face. Dad, thank you. I don't deserve. This isn't about what you deserve, I interrupted. It's about what Tyler and Maddie deserve. It's about family taking care of family, the right way with honesty and respect. The following Saturday, Jennifer, Robert, and the kids came to dinner. It was the first time we'd all been together since before my stroke. Caitlin had helped me prepare a simple meal, then discreetly left for the evening to give us privacy. The atmosphere was tense at first. Robert could barely meet my eyes, shame evident in his posture. Jennifer was nervous, fussing over the table setting and my comfort. The teenagers, sensing the undercurrents but not understanding them fully, were unusually quiet. Before we eat, I said once everyone was seated, there are some things we need to discuss as a family. Maddie and Tyler exchanged glances. Jennifer nodded encouragingly at Robert, who cleared his throat. Kids, he began, your grandfather has generously offered to help us through some financial difficulties. But first, your mom and I need to be honest with you about our situation. Over the next 20 minutes, Robert explained their financial problems in terms the teenagers could understand. He took full responsibility for his trading losses, the home equity mistakes, and most painfully, the depletion of Tyler's college fund. The bottom line, he concluded, is that we've been living beyond our means for years. That stops now. There will be changes. The country club membership is gone. The summer house rental won't happen next year, and we'll need to be more mindful about expenses. Maddie spoke first. Does this mean I can't go to Fairfield? Jennifer reached for her daughter's hand. We're figuring that out. Grandpa has offered to help, but we need to work out the details. What about my college fund? Tyler asked, looking directly at his father. Robert flinched visibly. I made a terrible mistake, son. I used that money to cover investment losses. It was wrong, and I'm so sorry. Tyler turned to me. Is that why you and Mom were fighting? Because Dad took my college money? Partly, I acknowledged, but mostly because, instead of being honest about their problems, your parents considered solutions that weren't respectful of my wishes. Like what? Maddie asked. Jennifer and Robert exchanged glances. Like suggesting your grandfather move to assisted living when he's capable of living independently, Jennifer admitted. We thought Maddie might use his house while attending Fairfield. That's messed up, Tyler said bluntly. Yes, it was, Robert agreed. We were desperate and not thinking clearly, but that's no excuse. I watched my family around the table, the shame on my daughter and son-in-law's faces, the confusion and hurt in my grandchildren's eyes. This was the painful but necessary process of truth-telling, the first step toward healing. The good news, I said, is that we're going to work through this together as a family, the right way. After dinner, as Jennifer and Maddie cleared the dishes, Tyler helped me out to the back porch. We sat in the gathering dusk, the first stars appearing in the evening sky. "Grandpa," he said after a moment of silence, "are you still mad at Mom and Dad?" I considered this. Not mad, exactly, disappointed, hurt, but also hopeful that we can move forward in a better way. "Me too," he admitted. "I'm pretty angry at Dad right now, though." "That's understandable. What he did with your college fund was wrong, but people make mistakes. Tyler, even big ones. What matters is what they do next, whether they take responsibility and try to make things right." He nodded slowly. "Is that what you're doing? Making things right?" "I'm trying to," I said. "For all of us." Inside the house, I could hear Maddie laughing at something Jennifer said, a moment of normality amid the chaos. Robert appeared in the doorway, hesitant. "May I join you?" he asked. I gestured to the empty chair. "Of course." He sat, maintaining a respectful distance. "Howard, I want you to know how grateful I am, not just for the financial help, but for the wake-up call. I've been lost, making one bad decision after another, trying to dig myself out of a hole that just kept getting deeper. "What will you do now?" I asked. "Whatever it takes to regain my family's trust," he said simply. "Starting with yours." Tyler looked between us, then stood. "I'm going to see if Mom needs help with dessert." After he left, Robert spoke again. "I've made a therapy appointment for my issues with money and risk. Jennifer's right. It's become almost an addiction." "That's a good first step," I acknowledged. "There's something else you should know," he continued. "I've been offered a position at a different firm. Less money, but more stability. No trading desk access. Have you taken it?" "I will on Monday." I nodded, satisfied. "Actions, Robert. That's what matters now." Over the next few weeks, a new normal began to emerge. Michael helped me structure the mortgage loan for Jennifer and Robert's house, with terms that were fair but required consistent payment. Robert started his new job, coming home at reasonable hours instead of staying late to trade. Jennifer began researching scholarship options for Maddie's college expenses. My recovery continued apace. By mid-October, 6 weeks after the stroke, I could navigate stairs without the stair lift, though I kept it installed as a precaution. My right side weakness had diminished significantly, and Dr. Patel cleared me to drive short distances. Caitlin's hours were reduced to 4 daily, focused mainly on helping with physical therapy exercises and heavier household tasks. My independence was returning, one small victory at a time. One crisp November morning, as I raked leaves in my front yard, slowly but surely, Jennifer's car pulled into the driveway. She got out carrying a folder and a bakery box. "Dad," she called, walking over, "should you be doing that?" I leaned on the rake. "Doctor says moderate activity is good. Besides, I like the feeling of being useful again." She smiled, really looking at me for perhaps the first time since the stroke. "You look good, strong. Feel better every day," I agreed. "What brings you by?" "A few things, actually. Let's go inside. It's getting cold out here." In the kitchen, she opened the bakery box to reveal cinnamon rolls, my favorite since she was a child. As we sat with coffee and pastries, she slid the folder across the table. "First payment," she said, "on the mortgage loan." I opened the folder to find a check and a detailed accounting of their financial situation. Income, expenses, debts, payment plans. The transparency was a welcome change. "How are things at home?" I asked, setting the folder aside. "Better," she said. "Different. Robert's new job pays less, but he's home for dinner every night. We've cut expenses dramatically, sold the second car, cancelled subscriptions, no more housekeeping service. The kids are adjusting." "And you?" She considered this. "I'm relieved in a way. Living honestly, within our means. It's harder in some ways, easier in others." I nodded, understanding completely. "And the financial counseling?" "Eye-opening," she admitted. "We've been living in denial for years. The counselor is helping us create a sustainable budget and debt repayment plan." "Good," I said, genuinely pleased. "That's very good, Jennifer." She hesitated, then reached for my hand. "Dad, there's something else I wanted to say." Something I've been thinking about a lot lately. What's that? You were right about how I've treated you these past few years. After Mom died, I stopped seeing you as my father and started seeing you as, I don't know, a resource, a safety net. I took you for granted. I squeezed her hand. We all took things for granted. I assumed our relationship was fine because we saw each other regularly. I didn't notice how the quality of our connection had changed. I want to do better, she said simply, not because you bailed us out, but because you're my dad, and I love you. The stroke scared me, not just because of what it might mean for your independence, but because it made me realize I could lose you. I'm not going anywhere just yet, I assured her, but I appreciate hearing that. As Jennifer prepared to leave, she paused in the doorway. Thanksgiving is in 2 weeks. Would you like to come to our house? It'll be simpler than previous years, but the kids really want you there. I'd like that, I said. Very much. After she left, I returned to the yard to finish raking leaves. The physical effort felt good, a reminder of my continuing recovery, of the strength returning to my body day by day. 6 months later in the spring, I stood in my backyard, watching Robert and Tyler set up for Maddie's graduation party. My granddaughter had not only been accepted to Fairfield University, but had received a partial merit scholarship. With my help and her parents' adjusted finances, she would start college in the fall. Jennifer approached, carrying a tray of glasses. Everything okay, Dad? You look thoughtful. Just reflecting, I said, on how much has changed since last fall. She followed my gaze to where Robert was showing Tyler how to secure the party tent. It hasn't been easy, she admitted. But we're getting there. Yes, I agreed, we are. The stroke that had seemed like an ending had become instead a beginning, a catalyst for painful but necessary changes, for honesty where there had been deception, for respect where there had been presumption. My relationship with Jennifer would never be what it once was. But perhaps it could be something better, something built on mutual respect rather than obligation. As guests began to arrive, I took my place at the table, surrounded by family and friends. My body still bore the marks of the stroke, a slight limp, an occasional slurring of words when tired, but my mind remained sharp, my spirit undiminished. The challenges of the past year had not broken me. If anything, they had strengthened me, confirming what I had always believed, that dignity comes not from perfect health or unlimited wealth, but from being true to one's values, from standing firm when it matters most. Jennifer caught my eye across the yard and raised her glass in a silent toast. I nodded, acknowledging the gesture and all it represented, the understanding we had reached, the boundaries now respected, the honest path forward. In that moment, watching my family celebrate together, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. For my recovery, for second chances, for the truth that had ultimately set us all free. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left.